All right, so here's number 10, one of the short answer questions from version A of the CBA review. So this one, you've got to do a couple things. Make sure, first of all, that you check the rubrics, that you know what you need to do. We need to write a correct equation for x, solve it, correct equation for y, and solve it as well. So just getting x and y for this one. Don't have to plug them in or anything. So let's kind of look at our picture and see what we've got here. We've obviously got a triangle. Y is an angle here, so I can use some properties with angles that I know. I've also got this symbol here, which if you don't remember means that those two sides are congruent. Doesn't say anything about the third side. So those two sides are equal to each other. So let's start with that. That's probably the easiest thing we can work with. If I know that this side and this side are congruent to each other, what does congruent mean? Well, congruent means equal to each other. If they're equal to each other, then set them equal to each other. If two sides are congruent, that means they're equal. So plug in your two sides. You've got 3x plus 10 on one side, 6x minus 5 on the other side. Those have to be equal to each other because that's what those markings mean. Now it's just a matter of solving the algebra. So let's start by getting the x's on one side and then the numbers on the other side. So I'm going to start by moving 3x over to this side. If you did it a little differently, that's fine. I just prefer not to have negative numbers. So I'm going to try and get positive numbers here. So 6x minus 3x becomes 3x here. Now I need to move the 5 away from the 3x because I gotta get the x's on one side, all the numbers on the other. So plus 5 plus 5. So I have 3x equals 15. Easy last step, divide by 3. So x is really 5. And if I plug it in on both sides, I should end up with the same amount. So if I plug in 5 here, 3 times 5 is 15. 15 plus 10 means that this side is 25. Okay, should get the same thing over here. 6 times 5 is 30. 30 minus 5 is 25, so we're good. These sides are both 25 units long. So x is now done. Equation, solved it. Boom. Now, this y part is going to be a little trickier to work with. Notice that's an angle. Okay, so I've got 5y here. Now these markings are actually going to help us. This is an isosceles triangle. If you remember back to when we learned about isosceles triangles, it means that two sides are equal to each other and two angles are equal to each other. We actually had a little trick we used. We said if you kind of treated this little marking like a little arrow and went diagonally to the angle that it's pointing to. I know it's kind of hard to do because it really hits a wall, but kind of go to the angle closest to it. It means that those two angles have to be equal to each other. So if this side and this side are the same, those bottom two angles also have to be the same. So it's not 75 that goes there. Be careful about that. And if you look at it, honestly, does this angle look the same as this angle? No. They don't even look close. I know we always tell you guys not necessarily draw on to scale, but you can still use your eyes and kind of at least assess whether it could be possible or not. That means that if this is 5y, so is this part. Okay, well that's great. Now I have all my spots filled in, but how the heck do I use that to my advantage to help me solve the problem? Well, what do we know about angles in a triangle? What do they all have to add up to? No matter what kind of triangle it is, all the angles always add up to 180 degrees. I just filled in my 3 spots now, so I just plug it in. 5y plus 5y plus 75, because that's the last spot, all have to add together to make 180. Now I can start solving for y. Well, 5y plus 5y is going to be 10y together. Still have plus 75. Those are not like terms, so don't add them together. And it equals 180. So now we're going to start solving for that y, getting it by itself. So subtract 75 from that side. Now I have 10y equals 105. Divide both sides by 10. We're going to end up with a decimal this time. That's okay, it happens. So we get 10.5 for the y value. And if I was to plug that in, I should get the same angle here, and all three of them should add up to 180 degrees, which it does. So I solve for y, have an equation, good, all done. So that is number 10 on your short answer question.